And we are Go for Fairly KickAss.
We are?
We are.
That's KickAss.
That's KickAss. We don't have that as like a tagline or anything. Should we? Do we need that?
It would be fairly kick-ass to have that as a tagline.
I was working on some stuff. Hang on.
Oh, yeah. Dan's got the hookup with all of these.
The Fairly Kick-Ass Podcast. It's a podcast.
Debatable.
I love it.
It's so good.
I don't know if it's my favorite one yet.
It's up there.
I don't think we've come up with my favorite one yet. You know what my favorite one is? The next one.
And we might come up with it right here on this episode of the Fairly Kick-Ass Podcast. And we might not. I don't want to, get
seems
your hopes
unlikely.
up. Yeah. And any ambition, anything outside of what we're usually doing is probably not in the cards, listener. So apologies in advance. You are stuck with me, Zack, with him, Jay, with other him, Dan, and with this episode, which is going to be a May album and charting singles reviews.
Yeah, it is.
We had the showers in April. Did they yield flowers for either one of you, or is it just a whole big old pile of dirt?
There were some flowers. No, like bird of paradise type, super elaborate flowers where you can't stop looking at it. I didn't see any of that. But some pretty flowers.
So maybe some daffodils.
Yeah, who doesn't like daffodils?
Who doesn't like if you don't like daffodils, we are going to have our plug for all of our socials after this episode. Let us know if you don't like daffodils so we can block you immediately, because we are a daffodil forward podcast. God damn it.
I mean, I suppose everyone's got a line. That's just the oddest one I've ever heard. That's all.
We go to the map for daffodils here. And I feel like now that we've spoken that into the ether, people are going to be like, yeah, I love daffodils too, bro. And I'm like, no, it was a bit. Sorry. I actually don't care.
You're going to have to commit to something you just weren't ready for. And now you're the viral face of something. All because daffodil was the first flower that popped into your head.
We're here on CNN Midday with the self-proclaimed leader of the daffodils, Fairly Kick-Ass's Zack. Welcome it. Yeah, this is what I see playing out in my head. That's my legacy, is a thing that I literally don't give a shit about.
If you get booked on headline news, I am so getting myself booked as a daffodil conspiracy theorist. So we can have the two-shot of me going, I don't even know why you thought this was a good thing to do, because we have discussed at length that you know exactly what I'm talking about, that daffodils are as much of a government conspiracy as birds. They're both watching you. They both always have their eyes on you. And now all you've done is push people farther into the police state.
So this guy might have his Reddit sub threads on, right here at his back pocket. But let me be here to tell you that daffodils are safe. Daffodils are lovely. Daffodils are not spying on you, and you should pluck them, or you can just admire them from afar, and they will not tell on you or your whereabouts to any government. What are we even doing here? This has nothing to do with May reviews. Once again, this was my fault. I did this.
Look, yeah, I'm just saying, when you take that bus, we got there.
Yeah, we did. I cannot deny that.
That was probably the most entertaining contribution I'm going to have all night.
Is that a dig at the charts for May?
Little column A, little column B.
Right on.
Column May. I like it. Well, we and for those who are new here, we like to start with the albums that we liked, the new albums that released in the month of May. After that, we will go over to Dan with the newly charting singles that hit the top 40 of the Billboard Hot 100 chart. But I will gladly go ahead and get us started with my number 3 album.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Now, I do have one gripe with this album, and that's the first track on the album is titled 6 Minutes. The track lasts 3 minutes, 39 seconds. I take issue with that. Just name it 3 minutes, 39 seconds, or name it something else, But what I take no issues with is the fact that Ghostface Killah Set the Tone, Guns N' Roses is a fantastic release despite the very poorly named first track, and is my number 3 album of the month. I mean, perhaps it's not fair to rate an album and give it as much weight for the main artist or artists as by its featured artist as I did in this case. But it's kind of hard not to when you have this kind of supporting cast on an album. Let's take a quick inventory, and this isn't a full inventory. This is just partial. We're talking Sheik of the Lox. We're talking Nas, absolute legend, obviously. Fat Joe, Ja Rule, Jim Jones, shout out Diplomat, shout out Cameron. Remy fucking Ma holding it down on a bonus track on this album. And then, you know, a few of the cats you might expect, considering this is a Ghostface Killah album, namely Meth and Raekwon the Chef. You may have heard of them. But even as amazing as all of those folks are, they're really not needed, truthfully, because Ghostface is timeless on this album, spinning fire all throughout, up and down. It is another album, I believe The Game and Big Hit, their album, I want to say it was called Paisley Dreams, from maybe back in April.
I think that was back in like January.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah, I think that album dropped January 1st.
Good God, where does the time go?
Yeah.
Where does it go? But this is kind of in that same vein of artists that should be past their prime, that should be well expired from their shelf dates, and are still, you know, going in and really putting out not just quality work for a legacy artist, but quality work full stop. Fantastic album.
I have 1.5 issues with the album.
Ooh, okay.
First of all, I did listen to it, and it is very cool. My one issue with it is that there is no track that's just Ghostface Killah. Every single track on that record has a collaborator on it. Yep. Basically, it feels like the album was just an excuse for him to exist with everyone he knows.
Yeah, I can't dispute that.
Right. And I don't know that that's a huge issue. It just felt like to me like I wanted something that like, where's his voice? Like, what is the point of this record? It didn't seem to have one because it went everywhere. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it kept it off of my top 3. The other issue I have is there's a track on the record with Kanye, which puts Killah into question to me.
I explicitly didn't mention that track for that reason.
I caught that.
Yeah. Just shuffled that one right under the rug. Yeah, no, it's I did mention like this isn't necessarily just Ghostface having like 2 bars and then, you know, leaving the rest to the featured artist. At least he does have a lot of airtime.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is nice. But yeah, I totally agree. This is just as much all the folks I mentioned, it's just as much their album as it is his.
Yeah. And again, it's all good stuff. I just didn't see there wasn't like a connecting theme, which may be something that I'm expecting too much out of a former member of Wu-Tang. Like maybe I'm expecting too much, but I
mean, the bar's high for a reason, dude.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, Remy Ma was fire. I love the track with Method. I actually really enjoyed the track with Ja Rule as well, even though he sounds like he's about 1,000 years old.
It's so true. It's so true.
And the lyrics are so dumb on that track.
Yeah.
But it's so fun to listen to. Like, I genuinely enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's one of those, we talk about good albums and we talk about entertaining albums. This was definitely in the entertaining category and mostly in the good category. There were some that weren't exactly the best, but even the ones that weren't like great songs were still entertaining, I thought.
Right. When if you talk about like technical skill, like it's fire 100% all the way through the record.
For sure.
Like no question.
Well, do you think anyone's going to have a question with your number 3, my friend?
No, probably not. This was the obvious choice for my list this month. As we are all aware by now of just how amazing Dua Lipa is. Her name is basically synonymous with hyper catchy dance pop with imaginative bass lines, simple, relatable themes, and vocals that leave you wanting for nothing. And Radical Optimism is yet another entry in that steadfastly impressive catalog. The downside of releasing an instant classic banger like Future Nostalgia is that forever and ever, your work is going to be compared to the master class in the genre. So using that as the basis of comparison kind of makes Radical Optimism the third Skylar sister right? Like the Rachel Dratch, the blue period. Is it great? Yeah, of course it is. But it's probably not going to be your go-to Dua Lipa record. As a reviewer of her album, there's one thing that's getting in the way of me loving this album as much as I possibly could, and that is that she did an interview prior to its release, and in the interview, she claimed to have the album that would be a, quote, psychedelic pop-infused tribute to UK rave culture. And that is so far from the case that I worry about what she thinks those words mean. Like, there is no Massive Attack or Primal Scream. What we get instead is Dua Lipa. All of it. Like, she's a phenomenon that pulls influence from all the greats of similar genres past, like ABBA, Mariah Carey, Cascada, Donna Summer. And she may feel the need to express that she's trying new things and expanding her listening and performing repertoire. And maybe that's a little sad, but as a listener, do yourself a favor and don't search for something that might be there, even if she tells you it should be there, right? Don't search for that. Enjoy Dua Lipa for the majesty that she already displays, because there is not a weak track on this record, and that should be celebrated.
I still cannot, and I don't disagree with a single word you said, by the way. That was a tremendous, well-read, in-depth. That's really the best review you're going to get of Radical Optimism, folks. Like, you're not going to do any better than that. I want to return to the Rachel Dratch comment, though. if that's all right,
sure,
for a moment. And I want to do so because to be completely truthful, Radical Optimism was my number 2 album of the month, so I was going to talk about it anyway. I can't really do much more than Jay did. So instead, I'm going to tell all of you to go to YouTube, check out a video from about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a series called Dressing Funny. I don't know if Tan France is in all of them. He is in this one. Him and Tina Fey give Rachel Dratch a very funny sort of refresh of her wardrobe. It's Rachel Dratch and Tina Fey just doing what they do best. They're hams. It's amazing. Go watch it. It has nothing to do with Dua Lipa, but it is well worth your time after you listen to all of Radical Optimism.
Yeah, there's some fantastic tracks on that record. Even if Houdini's the only one that you want to listen to, you're still okay.
Yeah, you could do worse. You could do worse.
Yeah. I felt like Rachel Dratch was an appropriate call out, right? Like, she's not your go-to SNL cast member, but she's fantastic.
She's so good. It was a very apt comparison. It just wasn't one that I was expecting today as well.
Fair enough.
But I was here for it. I hate to turn the tables back over to you, but
it's fine.
Go ahead with your number 2.
I only hate that you're turning it back over to me because I don't really know what I want to say about my number 2 record. My number 2 album for the month of May 2024 is the new album from Willow called Empathogen. I tell you what, if there is any artist that displays discernible growth and maturity over the course of their career, it is Willow Smith. Like, hands down. Because if you look back at the origins of her career and, those, fun kid poppy songs, just fine. There's some good stuff there. And then her emo phase where she was hanging out with MGK a little too much. And then now we've got this really quirky, insightful, creative, and expressive artist who's just doing some amazing things with her voice. Like, it's pop, but through a filter, and that filter may as well be like, I don't even, it's warped. It's a warped filter. This filter has been melted and then like re-crispified. And this is what it's pop, but it's also R&B, and it's also just weird. And I love it. I don't have a good description for the album. I literally wrote nothing, just that I wanted to talk about this as my number 2 record.
It is astonishing that Willow Smith is 23 years old currently and has already released 6 studio albums and the collab that she did with Tyler Cole back in 2020.
Right.
Which was awesome.
Which was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's amazing that she's got such a massive catalog, but also I don't think that I've been as impressed by one of her albums as I was with this one. She does some things, especially vocally, but also just lyrically and experimentally, that are well beyond a 23-year-old's scope, a typical 23-year-old scope.
Yeah, I mean, how far removed are we from Whip My Hair at this point?
All the way. Like, it's not the same person. This is not
At
the
all.
same artist that released that song.
At all. It's been astounding to see, and with such growth and maturity and just change, just evolution. You know, what are we going to be talking about when Willow turns 33? Like, there may be 3 or 4 other forms that have come and gone by then, which is so exciting, honestly.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how much I can actually use to describe the album itself, because it changes from song to song. So it's not like there's like one style that I can pinpoint going all the way through. But I would just say that the experimentation is really the thing that stands out. And then the fact that she comes out as a vocal powerhouse on this record. Like, she is a much better singer than I had ever given her credit for. And she displays that fully on Empathogen.
Yeah, and another quick YouTube hit, because it also came out this month, Tiny Desk concert from Willow. Go check that out when you get a chance. Yeah, I admittedly have not had a chance to sink my teeth into it yet, but I can't imagine it's bad. I mean, come on, like, we just talked about it for like 3 or 4 minutes. There's no way it's bad.
Right. I will definitely be. I didn't know that happened. I will be doing that.
For sure. But before y'all go to YouTube and look up Tiny Desk Concerts or Rachel Dratch, you have a whole half-ish of an episode of Fairly KickAss to get through. And I am going to go ahead and take a quick dip. We went through our number 3s. We went through our number 2s. We will then go to just what barely missed the cut with our honorable mentions. And I have a bunch of them. So I'm just going to rapid fire through these real quickly. First off, Look to the East, Look to the West, the latest from Camera Obscura. Fantastic indie pop. Think like Decemberist minus all the pirates and bayonets and shit. Which sounds derisive. I actually just saw the Decemberists in concert like a week or 2 ago, and it was a fantastic show. I love them so much. But yeah, this was also great. One that is probably going to be talked about in some depth either this month, if not next month, of course, Hit Me Hard and Soft by Billie Eilish. Yeah. I was very hesitant to put this in my top 3, and I don't know if I would have even without a lot of this album charting. I know I've counted at least 4 tracks that have charted thus far, maybe others on the way. But it's a perfect highlight reel of all the things that make Billie Eilish such a stratospheric artist. And I'll leave it at that. Like, it's worth a listen. It's magical. It's wonderful. Thou, with their latest release, Umbilical, delicious, tasty sludge. You just can't take it from me. It's mine now. It belongs to me.
I will fight you for it.
You're on. I don't know if you'll be fighting me for the Arab Strap, which we briefly touched on last month with their latest. I'm totally fine with it. Don't give a fuck anymore. One of my favorite tracks of the year came from this album, and I wish I had written it down like a good podcaster, but I did not, and I don't remember the name of it. So just pick a song and pretend that that's one of my favorite songs of the year so far. Perfect. Also, Unleash the Archers with Phantoma, a beautiful, beautiful melodic metal album. Great vocals, great instrumentals. Wasn't quite over the top for me, but I would absolutely play it again. It was absolutely wonderful. One that surprised me, their first album since 2014's All Together Now, Better Than Ezra with Super Magic. This is going to sound derisive, and it kind of is, but I'm going to explain. This could pass for a late catalog Imagine Dragons release. The difference being that this is actually good. This is what you listen to when you pull up like Imagine Dragons' 4th or 5th album, and you're like, why doesn't it sound like that? Why doesn't it sound like Super Magic? Because they're not better than Ezra. And then a couple that were not quite on the good side that were a little bit, they were terrible. Let's just put it like it is. Veritas, the latest album from POD. Yeah. All the fundamental elements are here with a bit more edge. And I mean, to be fair, if you like POD, you'll like this album. If you aren't really a big fan, it's just going to miss. It's just like the rest of their catalog.
Yeah. Also, if you like POD, I don't know how to talk to you.
I'm sensing Jay is saying you might be in the wrong place if you. That's not true. We welcome
No.
everyone.
No, yes, your opinion is valid, even if it's wrong.
Well, at least one thing I think that all of us can agree on, if not the POD, we can agree on the Chief Keef. The latest Almighty So 2 is a train wreck of epic proportions. I mean, Jesus, like both literally, because there is an awful track on this album named Jesus, and also an exclamation of the rest of the album, which also incidentally is ass. Imagine Tekashi 6ix9ine with the bad head cold, and you've got the gist of it. It is an atrocity, and it needs to be removed from Spotify immediately.
Wow.
And finally, Kate Hudson is a fantastic actress. So I'll go ahead and give it to you for your honorable mentions.
I will say this about the Kate Hudson record. The first track surprised me in that it wasn't terrible. Everything after that was bad. Everything after that was bad. But the first
took a
track,
quick nosedive.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is listenable. Like it's not going to, make any lists. But then it went downhill from there. My honorable mentions, that's not a thing.
Should be.
Right? Okay, so I can skip the POD. No, okay. Honorable mentions. Yeah, I also had Camera Obscura's Look to the East, Look to the West. I have, let's see, Wheel, Charismatic Leaders. That's a very cool record. I love those guys. Didn't put any of those on there. Let me look at, Paul Bear. If you want a really cool, like, it's another one I'm not really sure. It's listed as a metal record, but it is not a metal record. It's more like a prog, I suppose.
Oh, nice.
But it's very cool. The guy's voice is amazing. Nothing wrong with that. Also in the metal arena is the record dropped by Kerry King. It's called From Hell I Rise, and it's a Slayer album. If you are a Slayer fan, you will love the Kerry King record. It's that. It is that. See, you stepped on a lot of mine, so I'm just kind of picking through. Oh, the other one that I really wanted to talk about was the Lemon Twigs. They put out an album called Dream Is All We Know. And basically this album sounds like it was produced in the late 60s. And I mean that in the best possible way. It's fun. It's light. The songs are very like refreshing and easy to listen to. Nothing that is probably going to be in my head for a long time, which is why it's in my honorable mentions and not in my top 3. But it's a very fun, cool album. And then the other one that's along those lines is why am I just now blanking on the thing? Oh, Hot Water Music.
Nice.
I absolutely love Hot Water Music, and their new album Vows is very cool. It is the closest that they've come to sounding like they did on 2012's Exister, which is my favorite of their albums. And it is very cool. It is very much like that album. That dude's I could listen to that guy read menus and it would make me happy. His voice is the perfect combination of whiskey, cigars, and passion. And it's cool.
That needs to be an album title, by the way. Whiskey, Cigars, and Passion. Maybe coming in June 2024. Check back for our reviews. I won't go through this list just because there are a bunch more, but Paul Bearer is on my list of albums that I wanted to listen to and didn't get a chance to. So
you should definitely turn around. That's a good one.
Nice. Yeah, that one's going to keep me busy for a good long while. That list, that to listen to list, I guess.
Yeah, there were also a handful of incredibly forgettable records, like Collective Soul dropped an album, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Beth Gibbons dropped an album, and it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right.
Oh, I'd put Lenny Kravitz in that same category.
Lenny Kravitz.
Light. It was the Lenny Kravitz album.
It was fine.
Lenny Kravitz all day long.
If you are a fan of La Savy Fav, their album is very La Savy Fav.
May was a month of artists making albums like themselves.
Yeah, which it's not a bad thing. It's fine. If you are a fan of that artist, it was a perfectly great month for you.
For sure.
The other one that I probably should mention before we get our number ones and move on to Dan is the Maya Hawke album, which exists.
Oh.
It's fine. It's nothing to me. Like the song that she released as the lead single for it is the best track on the album. Missing Out it's the best track on the album, and everything else kind of pales in comparison. But it's worth a listen.
Yeah, that was one I explicitly didn't listen to because I didn't want to risk really loving it and having to put it in my top 3 because I figured you would. I honestly figured that was your number 1 album. So I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, it is not. I mean, it was good. I'm not going to say it was bad. It was good. It's sort of a one note album.
I feel you.
Like it stays in its lane. It does its thing, and it's cool. It's fine, but it's not something I'd really want to spend a lot of time talking about.
Yeah, one of those where like I think both of our expectations for the album were moderately high just because of Maya's previous work. So, and maybe that's unfair to grade on a curve, so to speak. But I mean, make worse albums to start with, and we won't have such hype for the later albums. You know?
Yeah, nothing kills a positive review like expectation.
You're not wrong.
Even considering that, like putting Dua Lipa on my list, like. That's just how much better Future Nostalgia is than Radical Optimism. But I mean, the bar is pretty high there.
Yeah, Radical Optimism was a great album. Future Nostalgia was an instant classic.
Yeah.
That's the difference for sure. Well, I can talk about my number 1 and kind of tie it into what you said, because this was an album that I was very hyped about. This was one that had high expectations for me coming into it, and it absolutely delivered. An artist that I was not at all familiar with until a good friend of mine mentioned him, a friend from over across the pond. This is one of her favorite artists. And anytime someone feels really passionately about an artist like that, it drives me to want to listen to their music more, because it's not just like, oh, I really like this song, or, oh, I really like this album. It's like, I am very much in tune with this artist, with what they're doing, with their feel, with their vibe. And that is the best endorsement of all. So I did. I took a flyer. I listened to a little bit of his previous work, but kind of saved the rest for this release. And I was not at all disappointed. In fact, the exact opposite. My number 1 album of the month of May 2024 is Undefeated by Frank Turner. It's fierce, English, punky folk singer, songwriter, dude, and a guitar, and a whole bunch of emotions pouring out of it. Basically the whole way through. Frank is not, as you could probably guess from the album title, Frank is not one to be defeated whatsoever. Reinforced in several delightfully defiant tracks, such as the title track and the track Do One. Wikipedia lists one of the influences of the album as Black Flag. I don't think it necessarily goes all the way to Black Flag, but you can certainly hear the inspiration in a lot of not only Frank's lyrics, but also his delivery in the album as well. For my money, the very best track on this album is Crossfire. And I feel like a broken record once again. This is another one of my favorite tracks of the year. May has yielded a lot of those. It's been very plentiful in that harvest. But the best track on the album is Crossfire. It's an awesome ode from current day Frank to his 15-year-old self. A very plaintive plea for peace. Say that 3 times fast. A very plaintive plea for peace with his inner turmoil as a 15-year-old. It's heavy content paired with heavy delivery. It lingers in the air, and it just stays with you long after you stop listening. It was a absolutely sublime album. I think Sublime did come out with an album, pun unintended there, Sublime with Rome, another one on my to listen to list. But Undefeated was aptly named. This album is absolutely undefeated in every way.
Yeah, I gave that one a miss this month, mostly because I didn't want my opinion tainted before I heard your review of it.
Well, I'm curious once you do listen to it if you're in agreement or if you're going the other direction or any other direction. There are a million.
I was going to say in the other direction. I could go any number of ways, but I don't think I'm going to dislike it.
Yeah. Well, what else did you not dislike this month? What did you not dislike the most, in fact, this month?
The thing that I disliked the least this month. Oh, Actually, it's one that you and that both of you are already familiar with because I sent it to you at the very beginning of the month. It came out on the 10th, and I have been borderline obsessed with it ever since then. It is another British outfit, actually, interestingly enough, and that is Big Special. Their album is Post-Industrial Hometown Blues. The album is like the best combination of spoken word, pop, dirty rock, and Jason Statham impersonation. The music is basically like 90s deadpan post-punk. Like there's a lot of like new wave sort of influence there, a lot of like more recent blues stuff like Black Keys. But the thing that you get the most is just the voice. And it is in your face the whole time saying things that I guess I should just read one of my favorite lyrics from the song Shithouse. And that was, had a thought that poked me, had a brainwave that fucking soaked me. I'm heavy when wet, my youth sparks of truth to provoke me, but that boy will never know me. I'm as young as I'll ever get. I had a day that broke me. I had the words, but they fucking choked me.
Fanning myself as you recite those lyrics.
So cool. And just delivered with, I don't have a good description of the delivery other than it feels like it should be like an intro to a Guy Ritchie film or in a collaboration with the Streets. Or like I really like I can't fathom another album that makes as much sense as this one and is as cool as this one.
Yeah, you were gracious enough to bring this to our attention, like you said earlier in the month, and it was hard for me at first just because I kind of looked at it from the lens of silliness, because not that the lyrics are silly, but that
some of them are.
Yeah, some of them are very much so. But like it was hard to kind of get past that at first and actually get to the meat of a really, really meaningful album underneath all of that.
Yeah. My favorite track on the album is probably Black Dog, White Horse. And that is he sings a little more on this track than some of the other ones, which gives it a leg up for me. Like as much as I love the spoken word and like belter stuff that he does, I really enjoy like his voice as well. And the line at the end of the chorus is, the shape of my intention is not the shape that I'm in. And just in his voice is so like it is devastating.
It's right through the heart, just the
heart.
multiple daggers. God damn. Yeah. What a great number one album for a month, for any month. Because I feel like this would be number one in a great many of the months that we would discuss.
Right. Like there's very few artists that I think could topple this particular album for me.
Yeah. Well, as a somewhat of a spoiler, we do like to do a sort of year-end wrap-up every year of kind of the top of the top, the creme de la creme for all of us as far as singles, as far as albums, you name it. You know, we talk about what we loved most. We're certainly going to do that at the very end of 2024. So you got several months left until that point. But I have a feeling that y'all are going to be hearing from a Big Special again here in a few months in some capacity.
That seems likely.
Good shit, man. Good shit all around. We won't be hearing about Big Special again until December, but we are going to be hearing about some newly charting singles from Dan. Dan, take it away. Let us fuck us up, as the kids say, with the charting singles.
So we can discuss this because the chart was something you guys discussed more than 30 days ago. And we'll get there.
Oh, yes.
We'll get there. Remember how when you drop an album at the end of the month and it charts, it all charts. It may take a week into the next month for it to catch up. That's all I'm saying. So there were two big events this month. We're going to have to talk about both of them. One of them I'm very comfortable in talking about. The other one definitely is not in my wheelhouse, but we got to talk about it. So Start with the honorable mentions. Get the first one out of the way to piggyback everything Jay was talking about. That is the Illusion single from Dua Lipa. That's an honorable mention, and it's only that way because and beg me, please don't take this as me starting to turn on her by sliding out of the top 3. Not even close. The only difference is I thought the other singles were stronger, and there was some other actually really great stuff ahead of her this time. But she's still one of the best, period. End of story. Will not be listening to any other arguments.
Fair. Just.
You're here.
And the other honorable mention, bit of a curveball. It's a curveball kind of month. And it's Drake with Push-Ups. This was actually a pretty hard verse for Drake. I mean, he kind of threw it back to some of those pandemic era mixtapes and earlier where he actually seemed like he was mad and gave a shit about something, which, I mean, to be fair, he probably was mad. It's definitely better than Family Matters because this track is not 7 hours long, but you can also listen to this track, not have any idea about the beef that's involved, and then understand why it sparked what it sparked. To be continued.
Yeah, it was, it was, I mean, every track in this beef, go back and just, I don't even know where you'd go. I guess there's maybe a Wikipedia article.
There is.
Thank goodness. Because you need some thumbtacks and some red thread otherwise to peel through every layer of Drake versus Kendrick Lamar versus kind of J. Cole for a hot minute and then kind of not after he bowed out, which was maybe the best move he's ever made in his career.
Truth. Like Pepe Silva is going to be involved whenever this is completely, and we're sure this is done, and and there's a lot of postmortems that go through, which as I'm saying, there's a lot of people who have already written the postmortems before it's mortem.
Yeah.
We're still.
They wrote the postmortems pre-mortem.
Yeah. I know you can be over mortem and you can be under mortem, but can you ever just be mortem?
I think you can in Europe.
Thank you. That's what I'm here for. I'm just going to set them on the tee. Y'all can take care of it from the rest. Okay.
We got you, fam.
That's all right. So moving up though, and it's not necessarily a thing we track officially, although I probably should, since if I did so, it would be more content, and especially more content that you could check out over at fairlykickass.com. However, the race for the song of the summer has begun. Not really in earnest. As I mentioned, the charts have been mildly distracted in May between that album crushing back literally everything. And then the only things withstanding the force songs from the two biggest in the game to advance a serious beef. The fun summer song hasn't quite risen to the surface, but I do have a counterpoint to it, and I probably should not like this as much as I do. But it has a damn catchy beat, and it will get you moving. Coming in at number 3 for May is what most would think would be a duo from hell, but they did get it together for one good song. It's Marshmello and Kane Brown with Miles on it. Yeah, I know. I have not had a high opinion of their previous efforts. Those previous efforts were garbage, and it's not too much different from some of their past collabs, but I think this is the most fun I have heard in a Kane Brown track, period. It's a difficult thing to quantify, and I think I'm this close to talking to myself into apologizing for making this pick. I mean, the general opinion is that it is mid at best. However, I will give them something for creating a dancey crossover about mindless summer activities. It's, again, stupidly catchy and very much a song of 2024, and we won't hear it again until the YouTube compilation video that it eventually turns up on 5 years from now. But for the here and now, it's a bop, and you're going to hear it everywhere for the next 4 months, so prepare thy loins or whatever.
That is a take for sure. Like it's like you said, it's the most unlikely of duos, full stop. And it's the most unlikely of duos, I think, for my money, to end up on as your number 3 charting single of a month.
I know. I'm pretty sure I buried the last single they put together.
I'm pretty sure someone took a baseball bat to your dome recently. I haven't heard the song, so I can't comment. Really.
Okay, so
just right. It's more just when I hear Marshmello, I hear mid at best. When I hear Kane Brown, I hear mid would be a goddamn miracle. And then the title is Miles on it, which screams ass country.
I mean, there's not a metaphor. There's a truck.
Yeah.
The truck.
Literally
a truck. We're going to put Miles on this truck.
The bitch.
No. That bitch is primer color.
I will listen to it. I always do. When you put songs on your lists, I listen to them. So I will listen to it with an open mind as much as I can muster for those artists.
Part of me is looking forward to hearing this, the reaction to this at some point down the line.
Yeah, I'm going to need this too.
Yeah, we might have to make this. We might have to have a follow up next month. We'll see.
Charting singles Redux featuring Jay.
Great.
Coming to you in June 2024.
No one
question
wants
mark.
that.
There's a question mark on the end of that.
No one wants that.
So I don't know if the two of you have heard about this yet, but two of the best in the rap game have spent most of the month of May at each other's throats.
Do tell.
I didn't know if you were aware. It's a thing out on the internets. The beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, to be fair, wasn't the most serious in the rap game initially. I mean, no one got shot over this one. Look, hey, we don't know for sure that the trespassers in that one shooting outside Drake's house had anything to do with Kendrick, okay?
Just the one.
Just that one. Hey, don't forget, and I say it's not said, but comparison, literally 50 got stabbed and then shot 9 times for his beef with Ja Rule. So, there was more. That's a whole nother look. That's a whole nother story. Okay. There's a lot.
He don't walk with a limp, so it doesn't even matter, man.
No,
he's past it.
He was apparently a douche back in the day. I'm not saying he deserved to get shot. I'm just saying that he was a douche back in the day, which may have led people to feel a certain way about him. That's nothing to do with anything here. I'm just saying.
It's fair. It's a fair corollary.
Yeah. However, like I said, Kendrick's first full-on response to the re-escalation of this feud is what finds its way to number 2 on this month's list. That's Euphoria. And again, I cannot and I will not try to dive into Kendrick's bars or try to comment on the content of the actual feud. I am nowhere near the right person to do that. And if you're looking for that, many, many more others across social media who are far more knowledgeable have already put out plenty of explainers. But I can comment on the song itself, which is Kendrick firing both barrels at Drake, and there's solid anger in these verses, which is also fueled with a much better beat than said push-ups. All 3 of them, actually, since we got some nice change-ups in there as well. Complex does make a very good point that I agree with. This song is a diss track. It's only a diss track, and it was created to be a diss track. You probably will not be spinning this one too many more times unless you are a big fan of Kendrick Lamar. Granted, it's here regardless because it's a very well-constructed track that is so good at what it does, it cannot be ignored. Think of it as a diss track in the form of an auditory blunderbuss.
Ooh, I like that. Auditory blunderbuss.
Anytime I can work the word blunderbuss into a presentation, I absolutely will.
And you should.
Is that the band that's going to release the album Cigars, Whiskey, and Passion, I hope?
Oh. The new one from Auditory Blunderbuss.
Man, we could be so lucky.
I'm telling you.
And we could be so lucky that we got so much mileage out of this feud in such a short period of, if you look at first-person shooter doesn't count because it was, the kind of fire starter to this whole thing. But push-ups, early versions of that were leaked in April, about a week later on April 19th, the song dropped. We had basically an entire feud from beginning to end in about a month, from push-ups to the Heart Part 6. And no, I am not counting Wagwan Delilah as a part of the feud whatsoever.
I was going to ask if you're counting 7-Minute Drill.
Ooh. That is a question that I did not consider. But either way, like if you look at like it, this was very condensed. This was not East Coast versus West Coast. Let's let it simmer for, a decade. This was get in, get out. Let's get on with their lives.
No, well, that's the thing. Like this thing has been kind of boiling under for about 7 years, apparently.
True.
But this is the conflagration, and it was very quick, very hot, and very bright. But so far, it's cooled off. Now I will probably date this podcast by the time it comes out. We'll see. Somebody's got something ready to go right now that is just drops the absolute atomic bomb. But right now, we're kind of on hold.
Yeah, I mean, it could literally be today. It could be tomorrow. Like that's how quickly and how suddenly this shit has gone down. So stay tuned. We may not be done with this yet.
And if it does, there'll probably just be an edited break in this conversation right now with update.
Like the breaking news music.
Yeah.
That was me several weeks ago when I thought everything was okay. It was not.
Yeah, just the escalation, like whatever comes next, like you said, is going to be an atomic bomb. It is going to ruin people because it has to at this point.
Oh, yeah,
otherwise,
there's no place else for it to go.
Exactly.
So, speaking of not okay, it's that part where we fall down to the bottom. And I will point out that I have to talk about that record. Now, you both talked about that record last month when it initially dropped. And then I have to talk about it in May when it took over the charts. And you had your say about Tortured Poets Department. And if you could, in a sentence or two, kind of recap y'all's feelings about it. And I would like to see how close we came.
Interesting. Go ahead. You go first, Zach.
Yeah. For me, the most complete Taylor Swift album, by complete, I mean complete with all of her forms coming together to make the kind of Voltron whole that was the entire album. Good and bad, for what it's worth.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember how I phrased it, but I said something like it was the attitude of Reputation, but with like the ability to write songs, which she didn't have on that album.
Nope, she sure didn't.
So like I felt like it was the attitude of Reputation, but with the songwriting of like Anti-Hero, like Midnight's era songwriting.
So safe to say y'all had a positive or negative reaction to this record?
Largely positive, just
Same.
not as positive as say like, the Cardigan era. that was my favorite era of Taylor, and she won't beat it probably.
And I would say that I thought this was her best album. I don't know that it was my favorite, but I thought objectively that this was her best work.
I love it when a plan unintentionally comes together and it's like this. So basically the whole extended record charted. I have 41 tracks on this month's list. 26 of them are Taylor. I could only tell that one of them was different from all the rest. I wish I could have gotten to that Folklore Reputation balance that you guys had mentioned. I listened to this record at work, in the office, in one go. And there's no exaggeration when I say I fell asleep in my desk chair.
Oof.
My dishonorable mentions are So Long London and How Did It End? And these two songs are down here because they were less the same than the other 20 tracks that are the same. Like, this record is for someone. I know this audience is out there, but this audience is not sitting here.
This audience is sitting there in Nashville.
Apparently, yes. There was like, I almost, I'll make this comparison that it's not going to end a career or anything, but it may frame Taylor Swift in a different era if she continues down this road, because there's no hit.
Yeah,
there isn't.
I'll give you that for sure.
This is,
I give you that.
We may look back and think of Tortured Poets Department the same way we think of Witness for Katy Perry, where this is the cliff and that stopped. The era of number one after number one after number one will continue just because of the way that the charts are now tabulated, but there isn't going to be that huge pop hit. Like the most recognizable pop song on this whole thing was I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. And that's number 6 on my list. It's not a terrible song at all. It's not a bad album at all. It's not a badly written album at all, but it fails. Wow, I'm making comparisons left and right that is going to get me in trouble. It fails in the same way that Morgan Wallen's quintuple records fail, in that it's a lot of material that's all the same. And at least in Taylor's case, we know she can do better.
Yeah. I can totally see everything you're saying. I didn't think it was as bad as you think it is, apparently. But I do see, like, it is clearly not.
See, that's the frustrating part, is that I don't know that it's bad.
Right.
But you'd almost prefer it if it was.
I would, yeah, I think so. Because it was 2 hours, and like I said, I feel like I was listening to 1 2-hour track. That's not the case with any other Taylor Swift record. Like, everything's done in the same, it could be done in the same style, but there is no question that where one song ends and the next song begins, and I just didn't have that here except for that one instance.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
She's certainly not getting any Grammy nods for this one. I'll give you that.
Oh, she will. She will earn. I imagine she'll win at least 2.
Let me change that then. She certainly shouldn't get any Grammy nods for this one.
There we go. Don't forget, Justin Bieber got a Grammy nod for Yummy. So let's.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it is, even though I feel that this is the zenith of what she's been able to do, the culmination of her career, like you said, this might be the culmination of her career. Like, there's a lot of down and really not that much more up that she can go at this point.
Well, yeah. And we'll have to see what the next step is.
Yeah. I anticipate a regression in whatever album comes out in 2025. More than likely,
I could see trying not trying to return to the mean a little bit. So you're probably going to go back. Like she might try to make 1989 part 2.
All right,
but if that's what comes out, if the songs are in the same style and they're just as catchy and they're just as biggy and poppy, then no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I will apparently get to be the one to shit on that parade.
Well, speaking of parades that you're shitting on, what other fouls did you harm?
Well, there's apparently, speaking, as I mentioned in just a little bit, in a comparison I already feel bad about. I'd like to apologize. No one should be compared to Morgan Wallen. But apparently, there are some people that need a boost from Wallen to get back to the top of the charts, and that person is one Post Malone, who debuted at number 1 this month in the Hot 100, but is down here at number 39 with I Had Some Help. And that's pretty much the perfect description of the song, because that's how he got on the chart. I mean, as I sit here right now, I honestly can't tell you anything about this song besides the fact that it sounds like one artist, which makes a feature totally pointless. Much like this song. I mean, it's not a Post Malone song. It is definitely a Morgan Wallen song, and it's catchy and exactly where Wallen always is, right down the middle of pop and lazy country and white guy rapping, and it's there, and it shouldn't be as popular, but it is. It's a rice cake of a song. There's barely enough caloric content to make consuming it worthwhile.
Yeah, just a quick recital from this track. It takes 2 to break a heart in 2. Baby, you blame me, and baby, I blame you. If that ain't the truth. The only truth here is that this song is absolute dog shit.
Absolute. Like, but then Morgan Wallen has basically taken country Mad Libs and turned it into a career.
That's so accurate. That's so sad that that's so accurate.
And I'm just saying that is where we're at. Is this guy is the most popular artist, has sold the most records in Nashville apparently ever, and then you get artists like, I don't know, Casey Musgraves, who can't buy a number 1 record despite the fact that she's put out how many amazing albums in a row.
Just stunner after stunner, at least 4 or 5.
Thanks a fucking lot,
Not
Nashville.
More. Yeah. Man, yeah, 3 weeks on the chart, 3 weeks at number 1. No real sign of that ending anytime soon. So y'all are to blame for this, not us.
Yeah. When in 5 years, when we do the re-rack for 2024, we will be placing this at the bottom.
Yeah, that's a lock.
Don't be too sure of that. This is
Okay, let's hear it.
It's only number 39, remember?
Right.
And I feel like I'm piling on at number 40. Did I mention I listened to 27 Taylor Swift songs that pretty much sounded the same with 2 exceptions?
That's a lot.
And again, credit to I Can Do It With a Broken Heart because it's the closest thing on the record to a bop as far as I'm concerned, and it's pretty good. But down here at number 40 is I Can Fix Him. No, really, I can. And it's not that far off from the rest of the record. This thing is it's blank space, squeezed through a Play-Doh indie pop rock filter, and then thrown into an easy bake vibes oven. And of course, it's apparently about an ex. We can supposedly add the 1975's Maddie Healy to the list of relationship fodder for Taylor, right after we're all supposed to let her ruin football for us all season, but that's another story. But where Blank Space at least had some energy and some attempted sly attempts at a bad girl personality, poor writing aside, I Can Fix Him No really has reverb. That's about it. There's a lot of reverb to this song.
It's good reverb. I mean, let's be real. The reverb's solid.
It's again, is it terrible? No. Like, it's frustratingly mid, and I think that's why it fits on the back end of the barely elevated bell curve that is the Tortured Poets department for me. Like, there should be more.
I'll grant you that song's not great.
Yeah.
And that it belongs at the bottom end of her record, which puts it toward the bottom end of your list, regardless of how you place it.
Well, just by sheer volume, yeah.
Exactly. I am a little surprised that you put it below a Morgan Wallen track. That surprises me a little bit.
There's at least some attempt at energy in the Morgan Wallen track.
It's all Post Malone.
I think. Like I said, I can't tell. The vocals are mixed identically. They're 2 people, but they're 1 people. It's Phil Collins and the Ultimate Warrior dancing to 2 hearts.
I swear to God, if I wake up in a cold sweat tomorrow morning and that is the first thing that I see in my head as I'm coming to, I am going to fire off so many angry instant messages. You don't even understand.
Oh, it's got to be so worth it. I hope that's the case and I get woken up by angry instant messages.
Oh, beautiful.
Then I'm just going to send you GIFs.
God damn it.
Man,
I don't know what to do after.
Can I be honest with you guys here for a second? I'll break the fourth wall to both you and listeners that I was so woefully unprepared when I sat down in this chair. I had just been running an hour-long taxi quest that I had just gotten back from, and I wasn't sure I had anything. I thought this was going to be like a 5-minute blow through my segment. I am so glad we found stuff to connect with and talk about down here in the charting singles part of this that, man, makes me feel a lot better. It feels like we got a thing going here. It only, after 4 years, we got a thing, boys.
It took us a while, but we figured it out.
We really came. The locker room really came together. Okay, I think now we've got the locker room W, and what will follow will be a scoreboard W.
Yeah. Yep. Sorry, I've never been in a locker room, so I don't know how it works.
I think you're dead on pretty much.
Yeah, that was the voice we all used.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice, perfect. Yeah. Well,
I can't. Nope. Moving on to the bottom. And normally when I put a song at the bottom, I could find, honestly, more positive reviews online than negative. And I am the asshole to roast songs that are clicking with people. I do take that into account. The fact that I'm the asshole. I accept what I am. But this month, I feel so much better in seeing the amount of times that the quote, the worst song of the year, came up in nearly all of the reviews that I read. So at least I feel justified that the mess of the track that gets all of this is the worst song of at least May 2024. Jaguar Twin and Bad Feeling, parentheses, Oompa Loompa. That, there's no irony in that title. That's the hook. They build the chorus around the Oompa Loompa song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And they find a way to do it more annoying while also missing the point of what those characters in the movie were doing when they came in and did their song. Completely missed it. That's not the Oompa Loompa track. That their song in the movie was not Eli's Coming, which is what they're trying to pass this off as. They were the punchline of the lesson being taught to the flawed character in the movie. Like, there is a reason for them to. A song frustrates me to no end to have to listen to. So I legitimately stopped like 5 times.
It's only a 2-minute track. You can't make it through.
I have not been able to finish in one sitting a song that has a 2-minute and 13-second runtime. There's so much electronic glop and bad and incomplete ideas here that I cannot get through it. So instead, I will share a question posed by one user over at albumoftheyear.org. And I think it's a great way to sum this up. They asked, how did they make AJR semi-enjoyable for me? The world may never know.
Oh, that stings. That stings.
That's good.
You were probably able to listen to most of the song in the track in the background behind my complaints about it, but good God.
I totally was.
Yeah, I absolutely was too.
Which is good. It means that this is the first time you're hearing it.
Yeah.
Which means you didn't hear it in the wild. You weren't suffering before I made you suffer with it.
Truth.
Because this one would have stuck with me had I heard it previously. It will stick with me now that I've heard even a snippet of it.
That's
even
the worst
the
part.
Hook.
Yeah.
The hook.
Uh-huh.
I could at least, like, the verses, I could see giving them a pass if they made sense. Well, I mean, they don't make sense. So they, like, I could see giving the pass if the hook was fun or good or worth listening to.
Yeah. That's why, like, AJR seems like a decent comparison.
Yeah.
Because they have several songs, a lot of them that charted that have that. Like, there's an idea, and we're just never going to finish it. But then this one has a whisper of a fart of idea that never even gets fleshed out. And then the hook.
Yeah.
So that right there is what managed to push Morgan Wallen 2 places up the list.
I respect it. I respect your decisions. There are no winners is really what it boils down to.
There are no winners.
I would have inverted the T Swift and the Morgan Wallen Post Malone monstrosity, but I'm with you on your list.
And honestly, I probably would agree. It's how the numbers shook out. Because do you remember I have that whole proprietary and completely
your arbitrary point
system, right? That's totally unscientifically scientific. To be fair, if I lay this whole thing out in a nutshell.
Lay it out in a nutshell?
I'm a professional writer. Most of the Taylor Swift album went between like 71 and 75, and I think 76 was probably the top song. So again, like I said, not bad, just in the very same range. However, doesn't take us to the top of the list. And something tells me that this top pick probably won't come as much surprise considering everything we were talking about the last time we were talking about the good songs. At number 2 is a Kendrick Lamar diss track that you probably won't be spinning too many times. At number 1, we have a Kendrick Lamar diss track that could very well be the banger of the summer. And the track that has pretty much buried the back and forth that these two had going. The best single of May 2024. It's Kendrick's Not Like Us. I mean, look, okay, if you can put aside all the hammer blows delivered to Drake, who was already pretty softened up by Meet the Grams, which that's a track. That's a track.
God.
And he was already, put to the mat by this one. You can try, like, even if you can forget the accusations that come with this song, just like we're glassing over those that were made in Push-Ups and Family Matters. But look, Drake could not deliver those shots and do it in this way, with a song so catchy, with a beat so infectious, and those horns that are just the driver there. It's a fire song without the desired outcome that's artist wanted, which was to burn down the ego of of his intended target. Not Like Us is what will last long after we've moved on from this beef and passed over all the think pieces and all of the in-depth TikToks. I mean, this says probably everything. I don't think I've ever liked a Mustard production job so much. Like, that's not
That's
right.
fair.
It's mustard. But that was something that Kendrick was able to achieve. It is in the lead in the clubhouse in front of everything else for Song of the Year. And good luck passing it up.
Yeah.
It took us 23 years to get from the Nas and Jay-Z beef singular that yielded both Takeover and Ether, two of the seminal tracks in the diss track pantheon. It took us 23 years to get anything remotely to that level, and dare I say it's eclipsed them both.
Do we have diss tracks on our list of things to do for the Rush, or have we done this and I've already forgotten about it? Because if not, I think we should, because it's going to be up there. Maybe we should put some time between that and now, but not like us is going to be up there.
Man, it has it all. It is hard. It is visceral. It lays claims that, at least for a lot of us, were previously unknown, or at least unknown to the extent. And again, as Dan mentioned, we are not getting into those. They are extremely heavy. Go look at the lyrics and listen to the song if you want to get the full synopsis of that. But whoo,
yeah, right. And that's the thing. But that's the thing, that even if you can separate out the weight of those, you still have an absolute banger of a track.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, that's not what you're not supposed to make a dance hit out of dog walking your rival, but here you go.
He managed.
It's so true.
I'm here for it.
Like I said, May was very centered on two specific things.
Perhaps the saddest part of Not Like Us, the part that just makes my heart hurt, is that this wasn't the last track in the diss track back and forth. Drake released a thing. It was a thing, let's call it that, called The Heart Part 6. That was probably not going to make your top 3, Dan. I had a hunch. I had a feeling.
I don't think that thing charted. That's the thing.
Exactly. And there's a reason for that.
Like I said, it may not have actually quashed the beef, but as far as the public perception of it, like, I don't know too many people who got to this track and were like, oh yeah, no, Drake's still inching ahead. Like, no. Kendrick just crossed the finish line. Drake is still way back at the 200 meter mark. He hasn't finished the turn yet on the last lap of the track.
Mans was running the Boston Marathon and he's stuck in Omaha.
I like that one better. Forget what I was going for. Go with that one.
Yeah, hella. I am so glad that this track charted too. That it deserved to be listened to outside of just the lens of the beef, and I'm super stoked that so many people got to witness it for the glory that it is.
I believe it debuted at number 1.
I think you're right. Yep.
And as I make sure I say this correctly, because it's the one thing, as of the recording of this, which is the chart for the week of June 8th. Spoiler alert. It has weathered that storm of Taylor Swift, and it is back at number 2.
Damn.
Don't ask. Don't make me tell you what's number 1, but it's still number 2.
That speaks volumes. It's because you could see it gets a quick bump. Everyone's into the feud, and then it just dies. But it has staying power.
Oh, yeah.
Perhaps much to Drake's chagrin, this is not something that's going to be going away anytime soon.
Which that could also help lead us to that perception that he got bodied in this, is that everything he was doing was kind of like, you listen to it, oh, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's kind of heavy. And then Kendrick continues to just win.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the Randy Savage elbow drop of diss tracks. Can count to 100. It doesn't matter. It's over.
He's not getting up. But what you could do is somehow force my brain to make a sentence. That would be awesome if you could do that. Because what I was trying to connect was something that you should tell people how for them to let us know whether they agree or not, whether or not this was Kendrick's victory lap, and how far off the beaten path I am when it comes to Tortured Poets Department. And how would they do that?
Oh, so many ways that they can do that. And ways that are increasing truthfully, by the year. Like, we haven't had a lot of increase in that recently, but let me run through them here real quick and make sure that I don't miss any. So social medias, you got at Fairly KickAss on Twitter, at Fairly KickAss on Instagram, at Fairly KickAss on TikTok, at Fairly KickAss on Threads now. I don't know if we've mentioned that one before, but we are on Threads alive and well. fairlykickass.com is your website for all of the kind of behind the scenes stuff, all of our Spotify ride along playlist, such as you'll find for this episode. You can search for Fairly Kickass on Spotify if you want to just get your playlist from there. You will also be able to get to all of our previous episodes of the Fairly Kickass podcast that way. I don't think they're associated with the account, so you would have to just do some Spotify magic. But either way, you will be able to find them if you look for them. Speaking of, we are on every major podcast platform. You can search for Fairly Kickass anywhere you get your podcasts. I did explicitly mention Spotify because we still have a number of episodes on that platform exclusively that we are slowly pulling over to be unexclusive to Spotify. I believe our first one of those is coming up here in a couple weeks, so be on the lookout for that. It is one of my personal favorite episodes that we've ever done, so I'm excited to be able to share that with a larger audience. So yeah, keep coming back, like, subscribe, follow, however you need to make sure you get the notifications that we have new episodes every Wednesday-ish. And if you want to get at us on a more personal level, we do have fairlykickass@gmail.com for any email correspondence as well.
So you said get us at a more personal level. I thought, what, you know, attack us on our hygiene or criticize our past relationships, or
All of which is valid.
which is all totally valid.
Yeah, we don't want to make it easier for them. At least give them a challenge.
I got nothing. Just the things that we're supposed to do when you do this thing that wrap up. And
I think he's saying to end the show.
That's what I got out of that.
there you go.
Let's do that.
Thank you.